In this short video, I'm going to show you how to create a simple collage. So here's two samples of a simple collage. Basically, there's not a whole lot of fluff to it. Basically, just has one focal photo at the top there, and then just a little bit of text sometimes if you want to. In this case, on the right-hand side, there's not even any text, but we'll go ahead and add some text to it. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you really want to do is you want to make a thumbnail of what you're going to be creating so that you kind of know what photos are going to go where. After you've created that little thumbnail with pencil and paper, then you're going to go ahead and start a blank file. So I'm going to go File, New, Blank File. It depends on what size you're going to be working with, but I'm going to go with a 12 by 12, 300 resolution. You can do whatever size you want. Now here's another cool thing that's added in these versions is you can go in here to the preset and go with US paper, international paper, photo, or there's the scrapbooking. So you don't even have to punch in the 12 by 12. And they also have different sizes of scrapbooking, so 12 by 12, 8 by 8, 6 by 6. So let's go with 12 by 12. Everything should be set. Just make sure, double check. Click on OK. And now let's think about what color we want to fill that background. I normally bring in a photo first before I even fill that background so that I can pull in a color from my photo. So let's go in and place the major photo or the focal photo, it's kind of hard to say, into the layout. So I'm thinking that I think I used this one as my focal photo. So let's go ahead and bring that in, focus point. Now we can go ahead and bring it in as a smart object where I place it, or we can open it up and then just bring in parts of that photo. So let me show you both ways. Here's one where it is a smart object, so it can be reduced and enlarged a few different times. Or you can go File and Open. Let's see if I can open it twice. I'm wondering if it's been placed, so it should be okay. And then I'm just going to take my regular rectangle marquee tool with no feather and just bring in a big box like this because I know that that's the size it's going to be. Drag it and drop it. And I can close this one out. So those are two different ways you can bring in a photo. I'm just going to drag and drop this one to the trash can and use this. So there we have our focal point. And let's say we want to use part of that green as the background. Now this is the cool part. You can go in to your paint bucket tool. You have two different options. You can go foreground color fill with a solid, or you can fill it with a patterned background. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill it as a solid. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the foreground color to set that, and it will give you this little color picker. And you can go inside of here to pick your color, so you can move all these little sliders around and pick your color from here. See this top one here? It says new. That's the color that it will be. Of course, we don't want to use pinks. We're going to pull a color from his shirt. I like that dark olive green from his shirt. There's the new color. I like that. Let's click on OK. Then I can click on the paint bucket tool, go to the background layer, and then fill it with that color. So it does match that photo. So that's really good. So then I'm going to go to my next layer on the top, so I bring in another photo so I can either place it or open it. So let's just go ahead and open it. I'll try all different ways so you can see. This one is going to be a tall, skinny photo, so let's go ahead and pull in just part of that. Remember, I don't want a feather on this one, so I don't have a feather there. Close out of this photo, bring this down here. Now I can line them up. They kind of jump to it if you have your grids on, your guides and grids. I want this to be filling up this area here. I can turn on my grids by going to View and making sure that my Snap to is on, and then Grid. Now I don't like that big grid, so let's go back into Edit, Preferences. I can go to General, or I can just jump right to Guides and Grids. I'm going to say every two, let's see, grid line. You can kind of play around with this. I don't like the red color is pretty good. So I think that looks pretty good for every two, so let's click on OK. And what I want to do probably is go ahead and bounce it to those grids. There we go. And I can bounce this one. And we can turn those grids on and off if they bother you, because it kind of does bother me in a way. So let's just go ahead and turn that off. And then I am going to take a slice of this off down here. And remember, you have to pay attention to your layers. So I'm going to hit the delete key. And now I'm going to bring in another photo. Let's go File, and let's place this one. I'm going to place this one right here. It's going to be pretty large, but I'm going to shrink it down. I'm paying attention to the Constrain Proportions. At this point, it was not checked, so this is what could happen. So I'm going to hit the Escape key, and let's just go ahead and bring that back in. Let's place it back in. Okay, as I'm doing this, I have to make sure that this is checked. Click on that, and then I can shrink it down. So it's jumping to those grids. You might not be able to see it, but if I can feel it. And this is a smart object, so remember, we can enlarge it and we can shrink it down without it being hurt, but we can't cut it because it has to be simplified. Remember, simplify layer before we can do anything to it. So just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and do another one. Let's go File and Open. Let's bring in this photo right here. That was so fun when he used to be able to jump on the bed and it not break. And let's go ahead and bring in part of it. Drag it, drop it, close it out, and that should bounce right on over here. Now we can clean it up and add our text, and we can also do some fun things with these photos. Like for instance, if you wanted to put a stroke around that, we can go into Effect. Maybe we do a drop shadow. I like to go into my layer styles to do this more so because you have a little bit more freedom. I'm going to go to Stroke. I'm going to do a stroke of maybe white just so it stands out just a little bit. And I love the fact that you can do inside, outside, or center. I kind of like inside better because it's a little bit cleaner. If you notice, let's go back to inside and go on OK. And I'm going to zoom in really close. See how crisp and clean that is? Let's go back into Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. But when we go, let's just do a really high level stroke. See how crisp and clean that is? But when you go inside, or outside, sorry, it gives you that rounded look. So either way, whatever you like the best. I always like the clean look. Here's the center. It kind of gives it a jagged look. And then here's the outside, and here's the inside. Okay. Now this is new to version 13, so you're not going to see that on version 12. Okay. If you want to do the exact same thing to all the photos, this is a really cool quick step. Now I don't think it's going to work with this one, but let's just try it. So I'm going to right click on the layer that I like the styles. I'm going to choose Copy Layer Style. I'm going to try this one here. Right click and paste layer style. Yes, it does work. Fantastic. And I'm going to right click and choose Paste Layer Style. Now you can select them all at one time and do this, but I'm just doing them separately. Paste Layer Style. So now you know that the same styles are going to each photo, and that's pretty important when you want to keep the consistency. All right, you can go in there and you can kind of pull them to where they all line up. Now in this case, I can go back into my View Grid and notice this one here, it goes a little bit higher, so we can either we can make it smaller and it bounces to that, and it's going to also bounce to the right hand side there if you move it on over. So they all lined up. And then this one here, I'm going to go ahead and move this down and over. Remember, you can also do the Shift Hold and select all three of these, and look down here, you see the alignment. So I'm going to align it to the top so all of them are aligned to the top. And then I'm also going to, I think it's middle or center. Let's see, which one is this? Let's see here. Nope, we don't want that one. We want the center. Okay, let's Control Z. I always pick the wrong one. So we're going to do center instead. And then I'm going to go ahead and top align it, because now they are all spaced out perfectly. So kind of play around with the alignment down here and the distribution. Now we want to add some text to the bottom. So let's go to View, turn off the grid. Let's go to the very top layer. I'm going to go with the text tool. I'm going to go with a white, so I'm just going to pick white from here. I'm going to click once. I'm just going to type in JC, hit the enter key. Let's just put 2015. And it is left justified. I don't want it to be left justified, so I am going to go center that. I am going to pick a different font because I don't really like that font. What do I want? Let's go with something. Well, we could go with that one. That's fun. And then I'm going to stretch it all the way across. And if I wanted to change some of the font colors, I can do that. Or if I don't like the white starkness, I can always take that opacity down a little bit to maybe 50%. And maybe I want to do a drop shadow on that. So let's go to Effects, put a little drop shadow on there. I don't know if I like that font. Sometimes I drive myself crazy with fonts. I'm sure some of you do too. Let's try something different. Let's try, how about this one? And then we have to go back in there and readjust it. I like that better. That looks better. And this is a very simple collage. We're also going to be using digikits here in the next few segments, showing you how you can bring digikits in. But once you are finished here, you want to make sure you save periodically, which I haven't been doing, but you want to save periodically. I'm just going to punch in JC1 PSD file so you keep those layers. It's very important to keep those layers just in case you spelled something wrong or you want to redo something. Then you go File, Save As, and if you want to save it as a JPEG, then you can save it as a JPEG. If you wanted to save it as a different size, you can go in there and resize it. So if you wanted to 12 by 12 and maybe you wanted to do a 8 by 8, you can go into Image Size, Resize 8 by 8, click on OK. It's going to shrink it down. Then you can go File, Save As, and then you can type in maybe 8 by 8. Just remember, you want to be as specific as you can with these names, and then you can resave it as a JPEG. So there's a simple collage. Go ahead and play around with it a little bit. Get a feel for doing your own 12 by 12s or your own layouts. And now we'll move on to something a little bit more complicated.